if you can't take criticism, music's not the right game to be in.
Downtime, so do what you want, but don't come crawling back home.
Thanks very much for your time, Jack. I appreciate it. How are you doing?
Not at all. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, been keeping busy and making sure we've got things like going on behind the scenes in terms of we're trying to get on some nothing bad. We're just trying to book gigs, as far away, far into the year as we can, just so we've got stuff to do. So. And we're moving. We're going to be moving soon from the current practice room that we're in.
Right.
So today. I've been going through some emails and sorting all that stuff out. With a lot more tiring than people than you think. You've got to go through all that kind of stuff, and you have to pay attention to everything to make sure you don't miss anything.
Yeah, I mean, especially now. I mean, congratulations on the label pickup. Was it last November you got picked up by the? It's like a Manchester and LA based label, no?
Yeah, it's what happened was with SoundX3 was basically we got played in America on Rodney on the Rock, which is quite a prestigious show on Sirius XM. We got played on that, and then basically they reached out because they'd heard one of the tracks. They played the whole EP in Congo when it came out. And they reached out because they'd heard one of the tracks, and they said, "Who's looking after the band?" And we said, "Well, we work with like a few different people in terms of like, we have the same photographer for everything. We have Llewellyn Picks for everything. We do a lot of shows with this feeling, but we don't have anybody who's looking after us like per se." And they were like, "Oh well, we love the sound and we love the vibe you're going for, and we'd really like to get involved." So it started off really. It was, you'd think that it was mainly like with it being Manchester and LA based, you'd think maybe the Manchester element would be, because it's closer to us, would be what we started off with. But we mainly spoke to Roger, the guy who runs it. We spoke to him, and he's in LA all the time. So it was just cross sort of area talking, and it started off like that, talking about maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do that. And then we got back in the studio, and I told them in the beginning we were going to get back in the studio because we was going to do 2 different songs. But we wanted to basically record them at the same time. So we recorded these 2 songs, and they said they'd like to release it via the label and publish it, distribute it with Orchard for the rest of the world, and symphonic distribution for the US, which was great because they're 2 really prestigious sort of distribution.
That's insane for a newly signed band. That's pretty unheard of as well, no?
It was something that really we they've been great whenever we've had something like we had an idea, and that's one of the things they said to us, like SoundX3 said, if you've got ideas, don't be afraid to throw them in the ring and whatever. And we've always made sure we've done that, and they've always been incredibly receptive. So yeah, it's been quite hectic since, because we did a few dates on the road back end of last year. It wasn't our own tour, but we did a couple of dates with the Lavins. We did a date.
Yeah, so you did a couple of supporting dates, didn't you? Yeah.
We did that. Then we did a few. We did a date with Stanley's. Then we did a couple of gigs of our own. So we had quite a busy time. And after that, it got to like New Year, and it was very much like we hit a wall because we'd basically run out of things to do.
Yeah.
In the sense of we hadn't really paid much attention to booking stuff for 2022 because we'd got to a point where we'd done this massive list of stuff that we'd booked for, And then we were saying, all right, well, we need to start looking at what we want to do for 2022. So we've got some things in the pipeline, some surprises, that I think I hope will go down well. Been starting a couple of those out today. There is new music coming, and we're sorting that out behind the scenes as well. Like all that the artwork and stuff, which a lot of bands don't like getting involved in that kind of stuff. They'll get like an artist or a designer,
someone to do for them, but we love getting involved in that side of things. So we always have a good idea, and we have a good laugh talking about what we want to do. We'll sit and discuss something. We'll try and be quite serious about it. What we're gonna, and then somebody will say something funny, and then everyone's just giddy after that. So I mean, what do you do? Do you kind of take photographs or draw kind of rough sketches yourself, and then sit down with an artist, or how do you go about that kind of stuff if you're kind of really involved with it?
Well, we have sort of sporadic ideas. So I'll see something like for the new one. I had this idea about having this like piece of card with a writing on, but on fire. So we was going to do that, but then we realised there's not really many places where you can set something on fire and not get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, we have to sort of rework that a bit. And then we were talking about like doing a video for it and stuff, and how we're going to fit that in. And then we talked about the video and discussions on what the video was going to be, which I can't say too much about, but what the discussions on the video were going to be came around this idea. And then this idea, which seemed immediately obvious, we'd completely gone right the other way. So I think that's the thing though. You tend to go down these creative loopholes, creative rabbit holes. Where you sort of go down there and you end up so far away from the original thing that you think, well, how did I get here? And that's something that it's funny when that happens, because we always do that when we're designing stuff, because we like things to be a collective effort.
Don't you think I know that you don't wanna wait? But I think to go and make your own mistakes.
I think there's a lot of pressure these days, especially with like Twitter and Facebook and just social media in general. There's a lot of pressure for bands and artists. And I was a solo artist for a while before Flechette started. So before Flechette was formed, it was hard then as a solo artist to get into, to get in the news feed. And it still is in a way for all bands, because there's a thing where it doesn't matter how much you've done, you feel like you've never done enough. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's, I think a lot of people, a lot of bands, a lot of artists, I think a lot of us feel the same in that way. You doesn't matter how much you're always looking forward. You never stop and think, well, we've done this. That's something. Yeah. If you're not coming up with new content and you're not posting new stuff and you're not paying attention to, and that's another one, paying attention to who your proper supporters are, then that as well can be quite difficult to manage. Because we have sort of a few names that we always see popping up, and some of those now where we see them and they're at the shows and everything. So it's a great honour for people to, for us. It's a great honour for us that people that come and watch us like on a Tuesday night in Leeds or something. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's. And not that there's anything wrong with a Tuesday night in Leeds. I've had a good Tuesday night.
But I know what you mean. It's hard to get out on a Tuesday night. Anyway, yeah.
And it's wet, it's cold. It's like it can be the middle of October or something. And it's great how that's built up, even with COVID. And we went the last time we played. Speaking of the last time we played in Leeds. Was last October, and it was one of the best shows of the year. Like the crowd was mad for it. We had it was a good venue as well. It was the lending room.
Yep, yeah. No, because I used to. I'm from Huddersfield, but I used to go to school in Bradford. So, and most of the concerts I went to were most of them were in Leeds, and there's like Leeds Town and Country Club and places like that were just the best gigs I've ever been to. I think, yeah.
I think it's a great city for music as well. There's a lot of good bands that we know that come from Leeds. I think, like, especially now that COVID's sort of not, I would say, not over, but moving towards like endemic or whatever. Yeah. There's a lot of bands forming that otherwise wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
So that's always a great thing to see. And it's great. It's great going out as well. You can go to any city centre up and down the country and there'll be a band playing somewhere. Mm-hmm. So it's about getting out there. It's about getting out there and and finding new bands and stuff. It's easy to find new music on Twitter and whatever and Facebook, but nothing beats when you go watching a band the first time and think, wow.
And aside from that, I mean, finding bands on Twitter and whatever, it's great for the audience and other people listening to the music, but it just doesn't help the bands in any. I mean, it's great for the bands to get new fans, but it's like if the bands don't sell records or they don't get people out to the gigs, they're not making any profit whatsoever out of it.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think it's somewhere between the two. I think there's a thing where bands and artists, like you said, they have to really get out there and do shows and stuff. But then again, it was like if you got a tweet, if you did a cover of like Ed Sheeran song or something, and then Ed Sheeran retweeted it, you'd get like, you know what I mean? One strategic tweet in the right place can do a lot of wonders.
I mean, I was already aware of you, but obviously, I mean, I think you saw the recommendation from your pals in Stanley's, no? Who were putting a few good words. Yeah, they warned me about maybe you ended up speaking about nuclear weapons for about half an hour.
That comes from because I'm
I know you studied military history, no?
Yeah, when I was an undergrad, I studied War and Society at Manchester, mate. I've actually got the hoodie on now. Right. But when I think I graduated from there, and then I went to study international relations at Oxford Brookes. But I don't like doing it. I do it online. So it can be quite difficult. But I've sort of specialised in strategic studies. So this thing with nuclear weapons, it all comes from this story, right? Where one morning, it was about 4:30 in the morning. Me, Jake from Stanley's, Tom from Stanley's, and a lad they live with at uni, Alex. We were all drunk, and me and Jake were arguing about nuclear weapons and all the rest of it, and all this other stuff. And it was one of those things you had to be there for that. But it's one of the really fond memories, just because it was so. I don't know how to describe it. It was just so stupid. Like, what we're arguing, trying to sort the world out, put the world to rights. It's 4:00 in the morning. We're all pissed, and can I say,
compared to some of the leaders around the world, it probably made a lot more sense than a lot of the stuff going on.
It was great fun. It was great fun, and they've been good to us. Stanley's have been really good to us. The Lathams have been really good to us.
Yeah, that's something I was speaking to the Stanleys about. Especially kind of not just Wigan bands, but kind of northern, but bands in general. The new bands, they've all been really kind of helpful to each other, and there's been kind of a lot of camaraderie going on there. Yeah,
it's well, the thing is, when we're not playing music, we're all out like getting pissed together.
Yeah.
Like, is it PG thing? Can I say?
No, you can say whatever you want. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Well, we all go out. So, like last weekend, or the weekend before, me and Jake Dorsman were out, and we saw Matthew Barber, who sings in another band from Wigan called River, and the bassist James Snow. We was out all night having a laugh and whatever, and it's great because you're in these bands and you support each other and you all enjoy each other's music, but at the same time you're a big group of mates as well, which is a great thing. And I think to be honest, I think it's quite a unique thing in the sense that round here as well, especially. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to Wigan before.
Yeah, I mean, my mother's from Preston, so I've been to Wigan quite a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's one of them places where you know it is a big town, but you do get to know everybody. Eventually, if you hang around enough, you get to know everyone, and that's more or less what happened. This sort of scene and the way it is now, sort of exploded in about 2019. I think it was June when it all started, because that's when I think the Lavens got noticed, and they started doing getting some real numbers. I think as well, like you look at the way sort of it was before. There was a few bands before all that were, you know, the Vellies were a band from round here. They were good. Revellas were like they actually did. They went on tour, I think. Then they went to France or something. I remember seeing it a few years ago, and I remember I was about 16, 17 at the time, and I looked at that. I was thinking, wow, you know, they've gone to France, and they broke up. I think it was might be late 2019, early 2020. I think it was at late 2019, and they broke up, and they played the last concert at the Tudor. I went and watched, and it was so weird because, you know, they were a great band, and a couple of them are still doing stuff. I'm not sure about all of them, but I know a couple of them are still doing stuff and stuff like that. But you know, when you're out on a Saturday night, I don't know if you know about the club in Wigan, Independence.
I think Stanley's mentioned it to me as well. Yeah,
that's like the main. Everyone ends up there. If you don't go there willingly, you end up there accordingly anyway. And basically, I go in all the time because it's just my favourite place. I mean, a lot of people, like friends of mine, they laugh and they say, "Oh, you know, you're part of the furniture in there." You like Dave Sweetmore said that. But the thing is that like I don't feel it's nowhere else feels the same. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Nowhere else feels like that. And you go in there, and the amazing thing is that Dave Sweetmore, because he's from Rochdale, not far, you know, other side of the county, but he comes and he DJs, and he puts the Wigan bands on. So you'll have like a full club. You'll have like
for the bands that he's playing are in there now, yeah.
You'll have like Falls, like My Number on. Then you'll have When the Sun Goes Down on, and then you'll have Stanley's on, which, you know, What's Been and Gone. And it's like it's so great because everybody's they're still loving it, and it really is a nice thing to see that. So I do enjoy it there, and I do enjoy seeing other members of the community, like the music community, there as well.
Don't you think I know that you don't wanna wait? I'm afraid to go and make your own mistakes.
Since you signed up with this new label, I mean, that the first single that came out, there was quite a few reviews saying that this was kind of a lot heavier than the stuff you'd done before. Is that something that you want to keep going with, or are you going to kind of keep changing little styles? Because something that's I particularly like about Flechette is the fact that most fledgling new bands, usually the first album usually sounds pretty similar all the way through, with maybe one or two songs that are a little bit different. But each new single that you've released is really quite different, which is not typical for a new band.
We've always said, when we've had discussions about writing and things, we've always said that versatility is our main, like, secret weapon. That's what we want. We want to be known for having versatile music and versatile influences. So there are sort of certain like genres that we're playing, but we'll not, stray too far. We might go a little bit deeper into one than.
No, yeah, definitely. It's all very Flechette sound, but there's always something extra there that's never been there before in other songs.
Well, I think this. So with Ink and Gold was quite a dark sounding EP because it came from. It was actually inspired by, if you've ever, the lead track Ink and Gold itself was inspired by The Jeweler's Hands by Arctic Monkeys on Humbug, which was their sort of my album. People either loved it or they hated it. And I loved it. I thought it was great. But I didn't get into Arctic Monkeys until I was about 17. Just never. A lot of my friends were into them when we were like 10, 11, you know, but it never occurred to me until I was about 17. And when that happened, I started listening to it, and Humbug was the one that was like, it's a difficult listen because were you listening to like the first album or second album, and they're quite not the same but similar. You get, in a way, with Humbug, a real caveat on the influences and the writing. And Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age produced
Queens
it.
of the Stone Age, yeah, that's when it started to change quite a bit, yeah.
But it's funny, I was going to say, because we did Ink and Gold, and then we went to the studio, and we decided, first of all, what tracks we were going to do, because we're always writing the songs. And we said, right, we've got these studio dates coming up, which songs do we want to do? So we picked the two, one of which was Make Your Mistakes, and the other one was the new one. So we picked Make Your Mistakes because it had this massive roaring guitars to it that we tried to do before, but I think the actual songwriting sounded too optimistic to really carry that through. I didn't write Make Your Mistakes. Will, the bass player, wrote that. And he comes to it because he's always been into sort of like the heavier stuff. So he's well into Queens of the Stone Age. They're his favourite group. And he's into like Caius, and, you know, like for many years, it was his favourite band was like Nirvana for many years when we were kids. I remember like
a lot of American influence, yeah.
And I sort of crossed over with him there on Nirvana and Soundgarden and Chris Cornell and everything, and it was with the turn towards the heavier, so it wasn't like a conscious decision where we said, right, we're going to make an heavier music, we're going to make an heavy record. What happened was we just collectively felt that one felt the most natural to do.
Right.
So we recorded it, and then we recorded the new one. So the new one is very much inspired lyrically by the Last Shadow Puppets.
Right.
And some Queens of the Stone Age, maybe some of the, not lighter, but maybe some of the more palatable, like Queens of the Stone Age stuff. I like it all, but some people don't like, you know, ones that have sort of like dissonant chords in and whatever. And but I like all of it. And it's weird. I wrote the new one before I actually got into Queens of the Stone Age. So I think I got it via osmosis off Will, and then noticed the correlation when I actually got into it.
Yeah.
Because when we went in the studio and was producing it, Gaz, the producer we worked with, he always says, like, what references do you want for like tone and stuff? So I said, like, No One Knows, you know, Queens of the Stone Age, that chugging guitar, and that sort of heavy, unique tone, what they've got, we wanted to try and replicate. And then when we got the mixes back and the masters, and we listened to it, I looked at Will, and I just said, that sounds like something that if I was writing it now, I would have wrote it.
Would have written it.
Said this way. Because it's amazing. You go in and you have an idea, and then it's like you go in, you have an idea of something, you do it, and it comes out slightly or entirely different to what you planned.
Yeah.
But that's just trimming away the fat of you know what I mean. That's just getting to the real meat of the idea, which is what I think you have to have an open mind to go in and somebody take it to pieces and say, right, you need to do this, you need to do that.
Yeah.
But also, I think that's how you get the best out of an idea, is you let other people critique it. If you can't take criticism, music's not the right game to be in.
I like to get the people on here to kind of also be supportive of other people that they think need support. So is there anyone that you'd like to mention that you think people should to reach out and listen to or discover?
I
know it's hard because there's so many and you don't want to leave anyone out. I know that. Yeah.
I think there's some great. I'm going to say from Wigan, Facades. I'm going to say River from Wigan. And I'm going to say Garden Party, a band that I know from based in Manchester. All good friends of mine. We've all got pissed together at various times and got great memories with them all. And, you know, it's amazing that you see so many bands and you watch them and you just think you should be like, you know what I mean? Fucking Super Bowl, get that done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That
Exactly.
I really, you look at it and you think there's such raw talent about in the sort of indie scene that you just think, you know, can't wait till somebody actually, like I've watched bands and I've thought, can't wait till somebody notices them.
Thanks very much for your time, Jack. I really appreciate it. I can't wait for the new stuff to come out and see all this artwork that you're putting together. And hopefully we'll get to bump into each other sometime at a gig sometime soon, or go out somewhere in Wigan for a bit of a drink.
Yeah, definitely, mate. You're always welcome. You're always welcome.
That'd be great. All right, all the best. I wish you all the best.
See you later.
All right,
Thanks
take
very
care.
much.
See you later. Cheers then. Bye now.